this evening. Sorry, I'm a bit late. I basically had to go do some stuff. This light's going to bug me. Hold up. Yeah, that's better. That's better. Yes, so I got slightly held up. It is what it is. So look, guys, hope you're doing extremely well. Apologies for being late. Hopefully you can hear me. JB is in the house. Dina's in the house. You guys are all in the house. I did slightly change the theme of the show as well. Tell you what, never on time, JB. No, I've been recently. I've been good. Recently, I've been good. So look. First thing to say is get into this amazing community. This is really the best community on this platform, hands down. Get into the chat, be respectful to the community, be respectful to the chat, be respectful to yourselves, be respectful to me. Otherwise, the banhammer comes out, and that is what happens. Second thing to say is, look, I'm not a dictator of this chat. I tell you what, the reasons why these shows take so long is because I do generally read out all of the chats, and yes, so get into your chats and that sort of stuff. So, guys are already in the chat. Let's go for chats already. 80 to 1. Name has changed. Let's have a little look at what we're saying. No chance JB goes live on time. I've been live on time most of the time these days. I'll let you guys go through that. JB will see that come on tight just to mess with us. Exactly. Let's get in a chat. What are we saying tonight? And then I'll go through all the stuff. You guys are in there. You guys are legends. Everyone's in there. Karutsu, Danny's in there. Dino, everybody's in there. Absolute legends. I'm just going through the chats. Let's see what. Let's have a little look. See what we're doing. So look, up to date. I think no, we're still going. We need Sheik. Fortunes will change. Yeah, JB and me and Dino still up for the live on Sunday. We'll set all that up. Danny is in the house. So, where are we tonight? So there's two topics really I want to get into. United, basically lack of ambition. I want to get your thoughts on basically tonight begging Bruno Fernandez to stay. I've got some thoughts on that one. I don't know if it's all a smoke screen. I think Wilcox and Omar are basically trying to save their skin. They know, I think possibly they know that he is going to go. And they're trying to save their own skin. And second of all, look, the Sheik is back. The Sheiks are back. Now, what I've been reading, I did reach out and ask just in case that my person knows anything on this. Nothing at all. So the first thing to go through on this is just say we have we've spoken about the sale on here a lot. Nick Russo says ideally we would be better to replace Bruno first before we let him go. Can't go sell a price asset before we have a replacement. Now, the interesting thing on that is he's only got a year left on his deals. Liam says, hi, fellas. How are we? Liam is in the house, legend of this community, and I hope you are doing extremely well. So, it's been said, and one of the things I wanted to say, this is another embarrassing thing. So, the story basically is that we are asking Bruno Fernandes what his plans are. Now, this is not about Fernandez's ability. This is not about him as a player. This is about United cannot make up their mind. United cannot are incapable of saying, look, Bruno, you are going to go. Bruno, are you going to stay? They are letting Bruno Fernandes decide. So they're letting him go to the World Cup, letting him come back, and after deciding. Scott, I'll set something up, buddy. Hopefully it will work, but I will set it up for Sunday. It will basically just be like an invite to a link, and then I'll put it on screen. Hopefully it works, but I'll test it out tomorrow. So the story is basically that we are letting Fernandes choose. Now, whatever you think about the player, whether we sell the player or not, if there is another bid of £100 million, I think we have to take. I think we have to take that Microsoft Teams work call shared to YouTube Live, pretty much. So I want to know what you guys think, really. I think this club gets worse and worse and worse. I think it shows lack of leadership, lack of clarity. Player power is still here as well. Now, whether people want Bruno Fernandes to stay or go, this should be about the club dictating to the player, not the player dictating to the club. I have a view on it. Now, you may not share the view. Liam says, maybe I have not seen the same articles, but it is not clear. Is Bruno leaving in the summer? And exactly, Liam, we don't know. This is exactly it. We don't know. From what I've read, from what I've seen, I've interpreted as this club cannot make a decision and will not make a decision on Bruno Fernandes. Now, and give me your opinions on this. I have an opinion. I think that this club is acutely aware that they are of the opinion that they need to sell him. He is an asset. I still don't believe that there is a lot of money to go around in the next window. And Bruno Fernandes, and I'm not talking about talent and I'm not talking about skill, Bruno Fernandes is probably one of the only players in the squad that you're guaranteed to get a price for. Now, whether you want to sell him or not, I think that is out of the equation. My theory on this is, and I'm sure that this has been already mentioned, is I think United are looking for a way to sell him without looking bad. I think this is typical Wilcox, Omar Berrada. I think this is about them trying to put basically the responsibility and the blame on Bruno Fernandes to lead this club. I don't think United have the backbone. I don't think United have the strength to leave. Now, so he's gone already. What was he saying? He was saying Bruno has to stay as long as he wants. Think you're talking bollocks. Daniel, look, mate, I've just seen the message. I disagree with you. I think that's such a limited viewpoint to have. And again, I disagree with you, Daniel. I disagree with you. Why should a player dictate? Why should a player dictate to a club when he wants to leave or not? Now, he's got a contract. Now, as Liam says there, the leadership is awful, but Bruno is insinuating he wants to leave. Fair play to him. And look, I don't blame him. This is not about the player. This is not about Fernandes, right? I disagree that Bruno Fernandes decides his future. But Daniel, what I'm saying to you is that I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm not saying that he's not our best player. I'm not saying that he shouldn't stay. I'm not saying that, anything along those lines. If Bruno wants to go and he goes on his terms, then that is up to him. But what I'm saying is where I disagree with you is no player is bigger than this club, Daniel. If you come back in 15 years, there's going to be a new star player. I'm not saying that Bruno Fernandes shouldn't leave. And look, there are fanboys of him. I am of the opinion that Bruno Fernandez's time is done, but that's my view. Daniel, I disagree with you that a player decides his future. That is the epitome of player power. Then what happens, according to you, is that if we let players decide on whether or not they stay, what you're saying is we let players decide their contracts. We let players decide when they want to go on their terms. Isn't this why the club is partly in the state that it's in? I'm not talking about the players here. I'm talking about the mechanics. I'm talking about the mechanics of what you're saying. You're saying that a player should decide on his own terms when he wants to leave. Bruno Fernandes wanting to leave this club will make a statement, and I will absolutely respect him for that. If he says this club is done, I will respect that decision. I will respect that if he wants to walk away because he's like, this club is done. I will absolutely respect that view. Look, my opinion on him, people don't share that opinion. Bruno Fernandes as a 10 is a fantastic player. I don't think he's been, for the last 18 months or so, I don't think he's necessarily been our best player. He's not a captain. I'd have no objections if he wasn't the captain and he stayed. Look, having a player like him in this team is fantastic, but we've got to evolve. Bruno Fernandes is not going to be here forever. The players that I knew when I was a kid, your Roy Keanes, your Beckhams, your Rooneys, even, Schmeichels, Irwins, they are far superior to Bruno Fernandes. I fully respect people's opinions on that player. I'm not talking about him as a player, but we will endure. We will look. Bruno Fernandes go. Are we going to replace that player? Probably not. So therefore, it probably is better for him to stay. But for him to stay now, he's going to have to sign a new deal because his deal runs out the year next year. I think he's got 1 year left on his deal. So do we let Bruno walk away for free, or do we sell him this year? And I absolutely fundamentally do not agree that we let any player decide their contract. That is fucking lunacy. Can you imagine if you let players decide whether or not they stay? They should decide whether or not they go. Daniel, as a take, look, that's your view, but as a take, mate, I think that's probably one of the more out there takes that I've heard. But look, let's get into this. Right, says, do you know Pavel Nedved? I don't know him personally, but of course I know him, Matt. I grew up around that era. I do. Let's have a look at what we're saying. Jesus. So Daniel's saying now you're just pushing the narrative against INEOS for no reason. No player is bigger than the club. What the fuck? Daniel, mate, what the fuck are you talking about, mate? You're just pushing the narrative against INEOS for no reason. Daniel, mate, you're... look, I believe everybody has to have their view, right? I am not going to call out that opinion. That is your view. If in your mind I am pushing a narrative against INEOS and you love Sir Jim and you love INEOS, INEOS are complicit. INEOS are complicit in the downfall of this club. You tell me what INEOS have done. Please tell me what INEOS have done that has improved this side. They've employed absolute idiots in the football inside. This club, for all the austerity measures, they're still losing money. There is no money in this window when we need players. They're complicit in the fact that the Glazers are still here. And look, if you're comfortable, Daniel, if you're comfortable with INEOS, that's up to you. That's up to you. Ray says, here's the deal. I think they're wanting him to stay so they don't need to invest more if he leaves. And Ray, I think those opinions are right. I think if they want Bruno to stay, I think they're going to have to offer him a new deal because he's going to have a year left. So he's going to have to be either sold this summer or they're going to have to give him a new deal. So he says, if we get 60, take it and get Rodgers. Going to have to move on eventually. Casemiro and Maguire have to go. Caruso, I don't see Jackie's message. Tell you what, fucking Daniel, mate, you're on it tonight, mate. The beast of. I've never been able to see his messages. We have to look at context. Last summer, the hierarchy were indifferent as they wanted to keep him. Amrin asked him to stay, so he has every right to dictate if he wants to leave in the summer. Look, Liam, I agree. I agree with the statement about I agree that Bruno Fernandes has got a contract, right? I'm not talking about the current deal, right? If Bruno Fernandes wants to stay, there's nothing anybody can do. There's nothing that I can say. There's nothing that the club can say. The club can try to force him out. That is never going to happen. I'm not talking about this contract. If Bruno wants to stay, well, look, I still don't agree with if you're a competent club, Liam, you force players out, right? I don't care. You force players out. However, under the context, if Bruno Fernandes decides to stay, I'm not going to agree with if he chooses to stay, because in some respects, if the club wants him to go, I think a player should leave. However, they've messed him around. He can sit. Look, if Sancho can decide to stay, if Casemiro can decide today, Bruno Fernandes as our captain and as a probably our best player, he should be able to sit there. I wouldn't blame him for sitting there on that contract and go, you pissed me around. I could have had 400k a week and you've pissed me around. What I'm saying here is that Bruno Fernandes should not dictate a new contract, should not overall, in my view, dictate when he leaves or not. Any competent club, if this was a City would get rid of Fernandes if they chose to. You know, Bruno Fernandes dictating to this club is player power. And we are too weak. We've got too many weak people in charge. If you want Bruno Fernandes to leave this club, and I'm not talking about me or anybody else, conceptually, if this club wants Bruno Fernandes to go, they should push him out. But the reason why they won't is because they know the backlash will be absolutely huge. But look, I'm not trying to drive a narrative. Bruno Fernandes has got a year left on his deal. If he decides to run that down, leave and get a big contract, that's on him. Is there a reason he has a release clause? Exactly. Let's get in there. Ryan says United should beg no one to stay. I agree with you, Ryan. I do agree with you. Great result against City for you boys. Full of confidence for the next game. Nikuri says he's gutted, going to miss the first half. I think United will bring McTominay. I think United will bring back McTominay, to be fair. I don't think they will. I don't think they will, my friend. I just don't. Liam says, INEOS have shown themselves to be poor at running the football side. Overall package for hiring second Amrin, 30 million, hiring and sacking Ashford 8 while sacking the dinner ladies and Liam. But according to Daniel, I'm just driving a narrative against INEOS. Poor INEOS. They've not done anything wrong. They've come into the club. INEOS and Sir Jim, they've come into the club. The club could have been sold. And again, whether you're for or against the Saudis or whoever else, Qatar, poor Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He's come into the club. He's poked his nose into business that wasn't his. He is here to make money, by the way. INEOS are here to make a bunch of money. They're not here to save the club. There was a pathway apparently to Sir Jim buying the club. Sir Jim is not here to buy the club. That is my opinion. I'm not here to drive a rhetoric about INEOS and the Glazers. People can make their own mind up about that. But my view, based on what I've seen, Inter says, sure, Lissandro Mount out. I disagree with Lissandro at the moment. Timothy Peter says hi. Hello, buddy. Can you imagine live with JB on all the current mods? It will be carnage. So he says, the decisions need to be made early and contingency plans in place. Sell Bruno, push Cody in 10 and get to central midfielders. Liam says, yes, we are in total agreement. No player is bigger than the club. He is and has been a fantastic player, but the club must exert power over players. And look, and that's the Liam. And I think, look, mate, Liam always makes intelligent, fantastic points, right? Liam, and it's so frustrating. You either, this club has no backbone. Right, and this is not about Bruno. This is about, if you've got a player, it doesn't matter for any team, and he's your best player, right? He is your best player, and his contract is going to be up in 18 months' time, and you've got to make a decision whether you're going to sell or keep that player, because Bruno's going to need another contract, and this club are so weak. We've got so inept people in charge who are so scared of the backlash of fans, and this is what it comes down to. The ownership is so weak that they cannot make a decision on a player. Tell him offer him a new contract. If he's not going to sign it, and he decides to run his contract down for a year and get a payday, then that's on you. Build a team. Build a team where players want to stay. Build a team whereby your captain, and irrespective of like how I feel about him, build a team around your best player. It is accepted that Bruno Fernandes is our best player. Then build a team around your best player. He is the club's considered best player. Then make him want to stay. It tells you everything that you need to know. Have a look. So Jerry says, over the years, better players than Bruno have dictated to the club, so cashing him while his stock is high. And I think, Jerry, mate, I think ultimately, I think that this is part of the problem for me, right? Are we going to replace Bruno? Right, let's just say Bruno Fernandes goes for 60 million, right? Are we going to be able to get a player or players, whether they're future or current? Do you trust INEOS to reinvest that money totally in the squad and get them to buy the right players? That, I think, for me, is probably the question here. Are INEOS, Wilcox, I don't think they are. I think they're fucking incompetent. Are they able to take the money from Bruno and invest it? Do you trust them? the question is this: do you trust them? Do you trust them to reinvest that money? And if they reinvest it all, do you trust them to take out one of the Premier League's best players, one of our best player, and reinvest that money? Because I don't at all. Marlon Taylor says, glory, glory to Man United all the way from Trinidad and Tobago. Legend, my friend. Raz says, is Jassim back? I will get on to that as well. I will get on to the Sheik being back. It's I hate to say it. I'm going to give myself credit on this one. I don't. There are a couple of things on this channel that I've told you guys that have come true. That isn't from me. That is from things that I've been told. I bring it onto the channel. It's all there. But this one, I'm going to give myself credit for, because it's something that I've spoken about in the past, and it's basically the two options that are being touted around right now are basically the two things that I said. But I will come on to that. Razwana says, hi. Hello, my friend. What's the story in Sheik? I will come on to it. Liam says, I think it's clear Bruno won't be offered a new contract, so this is a moot point. I would be stunned if he runs his contract down. He's off in the summer. And Liam, I think that's probably the most logical thing. I believe that as well. You know, United can't afford to let him run the contract down, because they need that money back. And I think Bruno wants to go. But my problem is this: is that United are so weak that they're not. They're willing. United are so bad. Jason Wilcox is such a weak twat, and I can't fucking stand him. He's such a weak person that he's willing to throw Bruno under the bus. And what I mean is he's willing to let it be known that Bruno wants to leave, rather than say, we're going to sell him. He'd rather let Bruno take all of the flack, rather let Bruno say that he wants to leave the club, rather than say that a decision was made either by them or by the both parties, which I think should be said. But they would rather, as of now, let Bruno Fernandes take all of the flack for leaving. So he says, that's my point. Have to put a plan together now in the coming months. Trust me, I'd give my right leg to be called a plank instead of what I've been called today. So look, that is where we are, and why are most people in charge so slimy? Because look, you know, I think I believe this. The problem that we've got is because these players, these people that run our club. If Moss United says, hi, hello, my friend. The problem that we've got in this club is that this is all about smoke and mirrors. This is about the blame game. Now, if you're at a Man City, a Liverpool, an Arsenal, you know, if they make a mistake, it's a collective mistake. In this club, it's about the blame game, and that falls from the Glazers. You know, it's never their fault. You know, the epitome of how the epitome of how you know what the club is that the Glazers have hired a patsy. The Glazers have got INEOS as a shield to put around them because they don't want the blame anymore. And then that shifts down the line. Sir Jim I don't think Sir Jim fully understands what this club is. I don't think he fully knew what he was letting himself into. And therefore, he's again, I think he's figuring this out quite quickly, that he's a patsy. And in front of him, he's putting another layer in front of him with Wilcox, who is probably one of the most incompetent directors of football that I've seen out there. Omar, I don't know what he does. I literally don't know. He basically smiles a lot, says a bunch of words, but I don't actually know what he does. and it right now is a recipe that is a fucking disaster. Just for the laugh, begging Bruno to stay. Whoever the new coach will Bruno issue needs to be sorted, because they're appointing, as I'm sure it's something they don't want to deal with. Liam says, "Oh, I get you, JB. Yeah, Wilcox doesn't want to be the guy who sold Bruno. He would rather it be Bruno wanted to leave and was out of Wilcox's hands." And look, Liam, that is just my view. Hopefully, Liam, hopefully, United will do it in the right way. Bruno Fernandes deserves to leave this club on good terms. Whether people think he deserves to leave the club as a hero, that's up to them. I think Bruno Fernandes deserves to leave this club and remembered as one of our best players in the last 7 years. I think that he should leave on fantastic terms. It would piss me off no end if this club decides to throw him under the bus. He needs it to be done in the right way, because Bruno Fernandes absolutely deserves to lead this club in the correct way. Jim, etc., thought they knew football. It's like they never watched a game in their lives. Moss says Sir Jim thought he could do something and realised how bad the situation is. And Moss, do you know the worst thing for me? The worst thing for me is this. They did a strategic review of this club. A strategic review. So apparently they got somebody in from top to bottom. They got the cycling guy in. I mean, he was a big pile of shit. They did a strategic review and they still decided to invest in this club. I mean, that tells you everything that you need to know. Sir Jim did a strategic review, came into the club and decided financially, because when you buy into a business, you've got to look at it from a financial perspective, because this was a financial purchase as well. And he decided to go through with it. It absolutely astounds me. Club threw De Gea in the trash, and Sully, exactly, mate. You know, this is their MO. This is their modus of operandus, is that they would rather throw players under the bus. What they did to David De Gea was disgusting. One of the worst disgusting, one of the weakest, one of the most pathetic things I have ever seen in my life. The way that they led him on to believe that he was going to come back, and the way they let him go tells you everything you need to know about this club. What do you expect for Bruno? Look at other players that were treated like De Gea. You know, I expect very much to be the same. I will get on to the Sheik thing as well. Liam says when Bruno leaves, he won't have to sign an NDA like managers. It will become apparent what happens. Exactly. Rez, I will come on to it. I will come on to it. Chill. I'm coming. So, right. The story that's come out just for Rizlander. Okay, so look, I will come on to it now. So, when this story came out, Jesus, a couple of months ago, and we were talking on here, and we were talking about the different things, and I've done videos since as to why Sir Jim, in my view, can't afford to buy the club. It's all there, right? Now, what we discussed was three things. Number one, Liam says, I could have my timeline wrong, but the De Gea fiasco was before INEOS. Agreed. I'm not blaming INEOS for that, Liam. Just to be clear, I'm not blaming INEOS for that. It's just a united way to do things. So I'm not blaming INEOS for that particular disaster. I blame the club. And for me, you know, when you're Exactly. It is basically the culture. It is the culture that comes down from the Glazers. It is that blame culture. It is that try to sweep it underneath the carpet and let somebody else deal with it. So, and Moss is completely right. It's more about the cultural thing of the club rather than INEOS. They were playing more times at INEOS of drug ball. So let's get on to, so there are reports coming out now on, and I'm going to give myself a pat on the back here. Fresh says, evening mate, Casemiro and Luke Shaw, world class, and Goldbridge, would Casemiro and Luke Shaw, and world class Luke Shaw and Goldbridge would beat you in an arm wrestle comfortably. Fresh. I love it, mate. I love it, mate. Fresh. You crack me up, buddy. Legend. Sully. So, there are a couple of things at play. So, there are 2 reports out there. So, number 1 is Sheik Jassim is back. The Saudi Sheikh as well is back. So there are 2 things here. So the consortium apparently is back. Now, I've said this, the consortium has not gone away. The consortium has always been here, and the consortium has never gone away. Okay? Now, I said 2 things on this, and I'm going to have to find the clip. I said it months and months ago. There are 2 things that I believe. There are 2 things that I believe would happen. Number 1, and actually I think I said it today as well. Actually, is that INEOS and the Glazers are looking for investment because they can't do this. They do not have the funds available for the regeneration. INEOS and the Glazers, their attempt was to get the government to back this up, was basically to get the UK taxpayer to pay for this, which, if you go back to how Malcolm, what he did with Tampa Bay, is he got Tampa to basically create tax to pay for the stadium. Now, that was the tactic that they were trying to use, that the initial discovery phase, Musk says INEOS realised they have to stay in the long run for stock to make them a profit. Exactly. So their initial approach was, let's get Sir Jim in, and you can have your opinions. I will never be moved on this opinion. Sir Jim has been brought in as he's got the contacts in the government. I am alleging this just in case I get sued. I'm alleging that Sir Jim has been brought into this club for nothing more than his connections to the government. Suarez Jr., legend. So on the basis of that, and this is all about the regeneration project. Now, the Glazers will not spend a penny of their money. They never will. Why would the Glazers spend £2 billion on a stadium, use their own wealth to build a stadium, and they're not going to get that money back for a long time? Scott said the live keeps crashing. Seems to be okay for me, mate. SSGT says hello from RAF Norfolk. Gotta look, mate, absolute legend. SSGT Sebastian, mate, legend. Welcome to the chat, my friend. Absolute legend. You know, when there's a serviceman in here, absolute legendary, my friend, and you know, thank you for being here, buddy. From my end, YouTube is all good. I'd love to be fine. So on the basis, never go £1 billion on this club. The interest on that would be absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. So hopefully I am back. YouTube has been an absolute pain in the arse tonight. So the Glazers can't put the money onto the club now. Second of all here is that INEOS. So you might think INEOS could borrow the money to the Glazers and they could do something with that debt. Now the problem here is that Sir Jim, again, is a billionaire. Billionaires don't make billions of pounds by spending their money. So they, again, would have to leverage the debt. Now, whether Sir Jim would leverage some of that debt against himself and leverage some of that debt against INEOS. INEOS are £18 billion in debt. INEOS is, I can't remember what the scale's called, but there's basically a rating that companies have, AA, A, B, C. If you are a AA, then it means that you're financially viable, your business is doing extremely well, and it governs the things that you can do. INEOS at the moment, £18 billion in debt. Their rating, I think, has gone down from an A to an A or a B. They're £18 billion in debt. There is a cap on the things that they can spend. They are worth £60 billion, but they're £18 billion in debt. So Sir Jim cannot leverage any debt against INEOS. INEOS in Scotland have gone to the government and basically got taxpayers' money, £70 million. They've also got a grant because Sir Jim won't put his hand in his pocket. So from a owner's perspective, these guys are not going to put the money down to buy the club. Now, for those of you people who've been on it saying that I'm giving INEOS a hard time, now Sir Jim could buy the club. Now, the Glazers are going to want at least £6 billion, something along those lines. Now, if Sir Jim pays that, fine. There's also the building costs. There's also the regeneration costs. So Sir Jim is going to have to lay down £8 billion. So that's probably a good 40% of his wealth. Is Sir Jim going to put 40% of his wealth down on a club? Sir Jim would have to then make funds available. Sir Jim hasn't got that billions of pounds in cash. I'm sure people think that people like Sir Jim is like Scrooge McDuck and he's got a big vault and in it is tons of cash. That's not how these people work. They've got assets he would need to liquidate. The assets is not going to do that. So in the context of all that, which is really important to understand this, is that we've got owners who don't have the facility. Sir Jim does have a bit of room where he could put some of his own cash, but he just won't do that. The reason why Sir Jim put money into the club to invest in the club to do Carrington, etc., is because people think he's invested that in this club. Sir Jim is going to make that money back. When you've got an asset like that, Carrington needed to be refurbished. You are allowed for taxable purposes to fix up an asset. So this money that he spent, this £50 million, the cash injection that he put into the club, Sir Jim is going to get that back. It wasn't from the goodness of his heart. It wasn't from he just decided to pump in a bunch of money because he's being good, because he's a great owner. There is a financial incentive behind that. There is a tax implication for that. And also, if you upkeep the asset, is going to be worth money. Now, I know that's a long explanation, but that gives you the context behind the reason why they're not going to put money into the club. So this is where Jassim, this is where the consortium come in. because INEOS and the Glazers at the moment have to find a way to pay for this. They are looking for investment. Now, there are two options that I said that could happen with the Saudi consortium. Number one is that what Sir Jim or what the Glazers want is they want, and this is out there today, which makes me laugh because I have said this, a consortium could come in and pay off the debt. They'll come in and they'll fund the stadium. Now, it's inconceivable in people's minds why, for example, the Saudis would come in and pay off the debt. Now, the reason why they would come in and pay off the debt, as many of you know, is that they would make that money back. You know, that is a small price to pay to buy into the club. They would clear that debt. It financially frees up the club. Second of all, they'd be willing to pay for the stadium. They'd have no problem in that. You know, one of the consortiums that we're talking about, I can't remember what they're called now, but they have their business is they've got transportation, infrastructure. That is what their business is. Their business is basically all that sort of stuff. Now they come in, they build the stadium, they pay off the debt. Let's just say they invest £3.2 billion. To them, that's small fry. You know, they're going to make that and some back. You know, if they come in and they partner with Sir Jim, the Glazers, forget about it. Forget about it. These people are never leaving the club. It will be a triple threat of a consortium, of the Glazers, Sir Jim. Forget it. Forget it. We will never be rid of these parasites. You know, the reason why as well that they would back up this build is because they don't mind. It's an investment, that £3.2 billion. Once that stadium is built, and it will be built. So for those of you who want a stadium, this agreement would expedite that. This agreement would expedite the building, and they don't mind wait. They've got no problem. You know, they're not cash poor. You know, the Saudis will all day long wait for this investment. You know, they'll make. You know, let's just say they build the stadium. They own the stadium, right? Let's just say they build the stadium for £2 billion. That stadium is then worth £3.5 billion. They've then created an asset, and they know the asset is worth as much as what they've paid for the club and to build it. It's like when you build a house, right? If you're a builder and you go and build a house, let's just say it costs you, I don't know, 300k to build a house, 400k to build a house. When you sell that house, that's going to be worth probably in the region of 750 to £1 million. There are houses around me. I live in quite a nice area. People are building houses for as cheap as they can, and they're selling them for £1 million. So once Saudis, if it is them that comes in, they build a stadium, £2 billion. That stadium is going to be worth 3.5 to 4 billion. They've instantaneously pretty much made their money back. And then if they invest and they stay for 15, they're just, I don't think people seem to realize the amounts of money that we're talking about here. And then what they'll probably do is they'll probably rent the stadium back to United. They'll pay popcorn rent, and what I mean is that they will literally just pay a token rent, because they will have to pay something for the stadium. You can't just be given an asset. United would rent the stadium from like the Saudis. They pay a minimal amount. The debt, it would be cleared as well, and everybody would earn so much money. You know, this build is going to make people a lot of money. They will sell the naming rights. You know, there will be businesses, shops who are going to want to be part of it. There is apartments being built. There's 13,000 apartments. Once they're built, the rent, there'll be a chunk of that is on rent. The whole thing is going to be worth billions and billions of pounds. We are talking billions and billions of pounds. And if there is a triple threat here of the consortium, they link up with Sir Jim, link up with the Glazers, forget about it. This club is never going to be sold. Now, what happens after that? Now, whether they invest in the team, look, the heart and soul of this club, it's not just the money. Once the circus comes into town, United will be a circus. It will be NFL style. It will be, those fans, and I always big up the match going fans, they will be priced out. It will be what the Glazers and INEOS want is they don't want the same people to go to the same seat. They don't want the same people to go to the same seat every single game. They don't want the old fans. They want NFL fans. They want you to pay $4,000 for your seat. They want you your season ticket on that. In an ideal world, right? Visiting United for a match will be like waiting for a ride in a theme park. What they want are queues down the road. They want different people to queue up and basically ride the club. And that is what they want. Now, second, so that is the first thing that I said. Now, the second thing that I said is this. Are the Glazers, if they cannot get the funding, right, or they're gonna have a funding in a different way, do the Glazers just want out now? The Glazers, let's just say the build isn't quick. Let's just say it takes 5 years to build the stadium. They magically come up with the money, but without the consortium, right? Do the Glazers have an appetite to stay here for 5 years? The club is in debt. The club isn't making cash. The club will be in debt. If it continues and there is no cash, the club is not going to do well on the field. The Glazers, there will be protests. It's not going to be great. Are the Glazers then prepared to wait for 5 years until the stadium's built? Are the Glazers then prepared to wait another 5-6 years to see the money come in? So let's just say the Glazers were to sell now, right? They'd make £4-5 billion. It might take them 10-12 years to make the same amount of cash, right? So the question here is, are the Glazers, if they don't have the backing of the Saudis, are they prepared for the abuse for another 10 years? And are they willing, and do they have the appetite to stay here for at least another 10 years? Do they want to make £4-5 billion now, or can they wait for 10 years and maybe make 6? So that is a factor as well. Sir Jim, for what I think about him, he's an older guy. I don't wish any ill on him. Can he afford to wait 5 to 10 years to see a return on the investment that like he's made? So this consortium, they've got an opportunity here to buy the club. Now, Sheik Jassim apparently is back, and the reason he's back is because he still wants to buy the club. I think it's quite obvious. He still wants to buy the club, and if there is an opportunity between, say, Qatar and a consortium, what people got to understand as well is that United, and I know people are we're an irrelevant club, and who's going to buy us? What players want to come to us? As a brand, we are a huge brand now, very, very competitive. Between Saudi, Qatar, all of those states. whoever gets United, it will be seen as a coup. It will be seen as a victory. And I know people outside of the club who don't support the club, they don't understand that. And I'm not saying I either want Qatar or the Saudis. That is what is on the table here. So what you could find will happen is the second part to this is maybe Sheik Jassim will offer what the Saudis have. Maybe Sheik Jassim, to get in part of this club, will be to do what they want and also rival the Saudis in that becoming a partner with these two people. Sorry, with these two groups. But if this consortium is in, Jassim is back in as well, and Jassim is in there now. If it's a sale, look, I think United will if the right price is in, United will sell. I think they're looking in and around for a complete sale, and that's Sir Jim, etc. I think we're looking around 6 billion to 7 billion mark, because but again that depends on whether or not they can get the land. So the sale wise, if it is a sale, you're not going to hear about the sale until it's pretty much done. I would say the more things you start to hear about consortiums, if we start hearing in the next couple of weeks and months, because don't forget, this stadium is going to have to get started. Over the next year, this stadium is going to have to get started. The Glazers, INEOS, do not have the funds. Okay? So the moment you start hearing about this stadium is planned to be built, that is when you know they've got a partner in place. Now, the longer we don't hear about stadiums being built, because that's gone quiet, the more confident you should be that a sale is probably going to happen, because without money, this doesn't happen. So right now, the news is that. The news is, for those of you who want a potential sale, I still think that there's a high percentage that the Glazers, INEOS, after this season, don't have the appetite. I think Sir Jim, a lifelong fan, had no idea about what this club is. Wilcox has no fucking idea. It's a mess. And I think Sir Jim is acutely aware that as a businessman, it's not a viable option. He's getting an older man. Now, does he need the headache? So I think we could have a perfect storm here. I think we could have a perfect storm whereby you either have a consortium or Sheik Jassim comes back in, and it's the perfect time to sell. They will sell the club, and or Sheik Jassim or the consortium get in bed with the Sir Jim and the Glazers. And if that happens, forget it. The Glazers will never leave this club, and this club will basically, as soon as the build happens, Old Trafford will be demolished, and this club will cease to exist as it is. It will be United in name only. And if that does happen, it will be the worst thing to happen. It will be a completely different club. It will not be the same club. Let's get through the chats. Moss says INEOS realise they have to stay in the long run for the stock to make them a profit. Jamie Carragher, what's up? Sally says it's easy. Is it easy? Mateta to midfielders get us top four the next 2 seasons. Mateta, for me, I would go get Mateta. I wouldn't even think about it. I would go in and get him. Sir Jim crashing the stream, says Liam. Moss says, what do you think of the recruitment from INEOS? Isn't it much better than under the Glazers? No, Moss, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think under under the Glazers, they just threw money. I'm not saying that it was spent in the right way, but the Glazers would spend 300 million. The Glazers would go and buy superstar players, right? I understand that INEOS's hands are tied, but my caveat and my comeback to that is, well, don't invest, don't get involved in things that don't belong to you. I don't think, Mosh United, that I don't believe that Dorgu, and I'll give you the context. I'll give you the context as to why I think the recruitment has been shit. Is because you let Erik Ten Hag stay, you buy a bunch of players, and then you sack him. So you basically buy a bunch of players, you add it to the mix of players, you then go get a manager who plays a back three. We've never played that system ever before. So not only has he got a bunch of players from another manager, he's got a bunch of players that are not his anyway. You bring him in halfway through, well, not, but you bring him partway through a season. You buy him Dorgu, a young player, and then in the summer he needs specialist players. You don't buy him those players. I like the players that they bought, but they weren't his players. Shesko wasn't his player. You know, he didn't want a Shesko. He wanted a Watkins. He wanted a proven player. So whilst I think that INEOS, the recruitment, in essence, is okay, I think actually the Glazers, when you think about the money that they spent, and they basically just let a manager pick their players. I hate to say it, as much as I can't stand the Glazers, and the money that they spent was spent on the wrong players, I actually think the spending under them was better. Let's have a quick look at what he's saying. SSGT legend, Sebastian Tudor, legend, my friend. Let's get through these chats. Let's get through the chats. I'm sure people are getting. I'm sure people are going to have a go at me tonight. Fresh says you still have to pay the money even if it goes down as an expense on the accounts. Training ground. You still have to pay the money even if it goes down as an expense on the accounts. The training ground. Well, no, you don't. Fresh, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. When you pay for something like Carrington, you can put it as a capitalized expense. So you may have to pay for some of it as an expense, but actually, Fresh, you're wrong. It's capital expenditure. It's not classed as expenses. Some of the spend, Fresh, will be expenses, but you're wrong. You are wrong. It will be capital expenditure because there are two sorts of assets. You can't buy an asset. So let's just say you bought a house that was a shell and it needed basically to be rebuilt. You can't do that. But if you've got an asset like a Carrington and you want to update it as an asset, you can. So you're wrong. Sorry, Fresh, but you are wrong on this one. Some of the money may be put through as an expense, but you capitalize it. You when you upgrade an asset, I'm not saying every single penny will go on to the asset, but it's capital expenditure, not normal expenditure. Fresh says, but I agree. I don't rate INEOS, whatever they are up to. Some seems to be unrest. Hello from a Brighton fan. Hello, buddy. I hope you're doing extremely well. Let you guys. Mus says, what do you think of the I've done that one. done that one. Get through these chats. Get through these chats. You guys talking amongst yourselves. How do you guys do with that? Hey, I'm back, says Bob. Hello, Bob. Hope you're doing extremely well, buddy. So what are your thoughts on getting bought by Estate, says Moss? It's a mess, Moss. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess, right? Whatever you think about this club, it is an absolute fucking mess. Do I want to be state-owned? Not really. In an ideal world, this is what I would love to happen. All right. In an idealistic world, what I would love to happen is I would love the fans to own the club, or the fans to have 51% and somebody have 49%, right? And then that 49% be British backed, would be backed by somebody that loves the club, that works with the fans, and everybody's happy. The fans are happy. You could buy some shares in the club. You could put some money to the club. In an ideal world, that is what I would love to do. I would love for the fans to own the club. I'd love, partners. You would have a partner who would have to adhere to certain rules, backed by the Premier League. The club would be protected. The heritage of the club would be protected as well. So you've got an institution like United that are protected by the government, protected by laws, owned mostly by the fans, with people who would come in and invest into the club. That's not going to happen. There are so many things involved in that. You know that you'd probably get United fans arguing over certain things. Fine, right? But that is everybody. That is what would be my world. Do I want state? Do I want this club to be owned by the state? No, not really. But how do we get rid of the debt? I'd also like the club to be self-sustaining as well. We earn enough money to be able to govern ourselves. Now, there are ways to earn some more money. You earn some more money by being successful on the pitch. Now, that's £640 million. You could, if you get into the Champions League, you could easily bump that up to 740. I think in potentially 5 to 10 years' time, if you are successful on the pitch, with the revenues, with the fan base, with the interest that would come back, I think that this club could be pushing between 750 to 800 million pounds if we're successful on the pitch, if we win competitions, if we do well in the Premier League. I think the club of this size could potentially start to push that in 5 to 10 years. Do I want to be owned by the state? No, I don't. But how do we make this? Like, how do we purge this club? How do I don't want it, but I don't see another way at the moment. If somebody can come in and offer a different way to do this, fantastic. But would I be happy with Saudi, Qatar, with all the political and all the human rights stuff? No. I wouldn't. No. It wasn't on here. It was another stream telling to apologise for supporting Amarin, says Nikki. J18 Hussein says, is top 4 on? Jay, is top 4 on? Now, I'm still not prescribing to top 4. I won't be doing shows on top 4, not just yet. I've said all season I think we'll finish between 8 and 10. Am I starting to waver on that potentially? But I still think we finish 8 to 10. But Jay, what I cannot ignore, what I cannot dispute, Jay, is we are in a top 4 race. We're in a top 4, top 5 race. Factually, mathematically, we need these parasites to invest. So if you want my answer, mathematically at the moment, yes, we are in a top 4 race. Do I think overall that we'll get into the top 4? I hope so. But let's see what happens in the next 4 to 5 games. Bob says, I'm back. Hello, Bob. Just seen Cole Palmer apparently opening to move to United. Talking bollocks. Absolutely not. If Jam Neves truly come into United now, Ali, look, there's so many reports. We did a show. I did a quick show on it. That Neves, we've put in a bid. I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule it out just yet. So the update on that is that United are prepared to pay £17 million. Neves is not adverse to that. This is coming from a Portuguese outlet. I can't remember the name of them, but the Portuguese outlet were the ones that were right on the Gyökeres deal. So I wouldn't rule it out. One other thing to say as well is that apparently this evening Fabrizio has ruled out Loftus-Cheek. Look, have no misconceptions on this. I was told a week or so ago, keep your eyes on a Loftus-Cheek. That was completely true. It's completely true. We were looking at him. Everybody has reported on it now. We were absolutely looking at that deal. I don't know what's happened behind the scenes, but according to Fabrizio, Loftus-Cheek is now off of the scene. Thank fuck. Additionally, Ndidi as well is now being started to be pushed to the side, which again, thank God for that. But don't be spun around. Have no misconceptions on this. We were looking at Ndidi. We were looking at a Loftus-Cheek. Still don't rule them out because their names are still out there. Romano has dismissed them, but let's just see. Neves looks like again could be back on or off. So we are going to do something cheap. We're going to do something cheap. That is what we're going to do. I was told in October. I've been reporting this as many times. We're either going to do nothing in this window, or it's going to be a cheap buy deal or a cheap loan deal. Good evening, says Simon. Just come on. Has Bruno said he was going to stay, or was this actually United's decision? And Simon, this is the point of the conversation. United apparently are putting the responsibility back on Fernandez. I think it's weak sauce. I think it's a completely weak move. Bruno is a decision. I think the decision on Bruno should be done collectively. I think it should be done in a respectful way. I think it should be done in a way that is respectful to one of your best players for the last 7 years, and you should come to that decision together and let it be known that the club and Bruno Fernandes has decided together that it's time for him to move. But Wilcox, these weak owners, Wilcox, Berrada, Radcliffe, they know if Bruno Fernandes leaves, they're so shit scared that they're going to get blamed, and this is it. This is the blame game. So the rhetoric at the moment is Bruno's choice. Cole Palmer is wanted to be the first player to cycle through the 6 biggest clubs in the Premier League. I don't want Cole Palmer, but from a player that they've bought in, they would get their money back on most of the signings. The profiles we got recently are better. No, I agree with that. I do agree with that. The thing is, though, I disagree with buying players from this team to sell them on, right? I don't mind if you're going to buy youth players. I do agree with you, though, that if we buy players that are good, if they then decide to move, you can at least get your money back. But my problem here is, are we just buying players so we can sell on? I remember fans arguing in the stream before, and Rich told them to pack it in. Liam says the Glazers were spending a ton of money because we had an abundance, while they could take dividends. Once they bled the club dry, they looked to sell off the part. Exactly. If Bruno does stay, then surely we just need one midfielder. If we bother to sign any players, it's virtual. It is vulture capitalism, Liam. 100%. Jay says, haven't we stopped buying players for the manager since the new football structure? Yes. Look, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with the club saying we want to play a certain way, right? We are going to buy players that suit the system. Let's just say you've got the club, and let's just say we are a competent club, and we say we want to play a 4-3-3. We want to play a version of a 4-3-3. Sometimes it's a back three, but we want to play a 4-3-3, a 4-3-2-1, right? And we want attacking football. We have to have a youth player on the bench or playing every single game. Doesn't mean that they have to. It just means that one of the targets is you have to have a youth player on the bench. Whether you decide to play them or not, that is up to you. I don't mind that. But then don't bring in a coach that goes against what you're doing. You know, they brought in a coach. You bring in a coach that wants to play your style of play. You say, these are your mandates. You've got to play. We want a manager that, in essence, you know, you can dictate a style of play. You can dictate, you know, from if you think in this game we need to play a back three, that's fine. If you think in some games, you know, we need to be more defensive, Fergie was, and you can't always be attacking. But in essence, we are a fast-paced, fast transitional counter-attack team. I've got no problem in that. And you bring in a coach and you say, our philosophy is this. These are our requirements. If you can't fulfill those requirements, then don't join the club. But then what they then, Jay, is that they then went, well, we played a back four, and now we're going to play a back three. And the problem with that is that this footballing structure wants to buy Premier League proven players that can play in a multitude of positions, which is fine, but you can't have a squad that has players in it that can play all sorts of positions. You need a squad at times where you need specialist, best-in-class players in that position. If you want one of the best left-backs in the world, you go and get a left-back. I don't want a left-back who can sometimes play a centre-back. I don't mind it, but you can't have versatile players in every position. I don't want a number 6 that can sometimes play a number 10. I don't want a winger that can be an inverted winger. I know people play that, but if I want a right-sided winger that could sometimes be inverted, but I don't want that winger to play a 10. I want a winger to be a winger. I want a number 10 to be a 10. I want an 8 to be an 8. And that is the problem that I've got. They're trying to be smart and bring in players that don't suit a manager. At least bring in a manager that plays the fucking system, and then bring in some players that are specialist, bringing some players that can play multiple positions. But this club seems to want to just bring in versatile players that can play in all different ways. I would much prefer to have specialist players. Dinelli says hi, hello. Simon says Nicarutsu, greetings, mate. We need Sheik Jassim, not Sir Jim, says United fan. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind a bit of banter, but I can't tolerate bullying. I don't know what's going on in the chat today. Don't mind. Yeah, let's imagine us as the ultras. I don't know. The Sheikh had gone. I would settle for Sheikh rattle and roll as long as he does something for the club. Lewis says Fernandez is toxic to the group. I believe was one of the reasons Bruno stated the club what was okay if he left. In my opinion, he's arrogant and wants to be the group leader. And look, Lewis, I've got my opinion on Bruno Fernandez. I'm not really going to try to bring it into the show tonight. I've said my piece on him. I share some of your views on him. All I'm going to say on Bruno Fernandez is that eventually it's going to be his time to go. Even in there would be problems because who do we as 50% owner appointment as the manager? Most of our fans are reactionary, so we'd be sacking a manager after 6 weeks. Rob James says, if Maguire and Shaw are there next season and another manager is there, then, well, exactly. Look, next season, we're going to know everything that we need to know if these players are still here. Arsenal says, I can't even pronounce your name, mate, so I'm going to try to destroy it. If we dealt with the Saudis, then it's money up front to buy whatever the players we want. It says, look at PSG. Dreamer says, Bruno out for a crap ton of money and buy better defenders. No, he's not. His dream is to play for his boyhood club. That is us. He would 100% come, maybe because we're above Chelsea. Now, my problem with Cole Palmer is he's injured. He's been injured quite a lot. I think Cole Palmer would be a disaster. If we can get the Cole Palmer that was last season, the season before last, all day long, I think Cole Palmer would be an expensive mistake. I think owners are pushing for top 4 because they want money to fund new players. You can get a whole defence for the price of Bruno. Villa want Loftus-Cheek. And look, Simon, I absolutely hope that Loftus-Cheek goes. Ruben Neves is literally 20 million, exactly. Real Madrid are also after Neves. Ruben Neves is a steal, exactly. I thought Madrid wanted Stiller. Liam says, talking about hedging your bets, I was told we're going to sign somebody or not. No, what I mean, Liam, is I'm not like hedging my bets, right? I've been saying this is that we are not going to make a signing, and I've been very, very, very specific on this one. We're not going to make a signing in terms of we do not plan to make a signing, and if we do make that signing, it's going to be very, very cheap or a loan deal. Others have been talking about some menu, about the labour, about all this sorts of shit, and I've been saying this. We will not sign a player unless it's loan or very, very, very cheap. I've been very, very specific on the type of player that we do. So Berrada, this is the day the EF stood still. Let's have a look. If Bruno stays, then let's see some goals, not just assists for him. Both he and Haaland have one thing in common: their goals have dried up. Why hi Amrin? They knew damn well the system he played and had the gall to tell him to change. If I were Ruben, I would have gone to prison that day. Moshina says INEOS don't know what they're doing, and that has saved the Glazers. Wasted hundreds of millions of pounds on hiring and firing, haven't got a clue. Cal says hi. Just says didn't Berrada bringing Amrin before Wilcox came in. Don't think Wilcox liked Amrin. No. Wilcox was here as part of. Somebody can tell me that Wilcox was here, but he wasn't the director of football. Wilcox was already here. Jay says INEOS have Glazers exactly what they wanted, just injection of money. Away from Bruno, I see the women beat Arsenal in the league semi-final, so I wonder is the omen for the upcoming match. Let's get through these chats. ST Duke says, evening folks, controversial idea, Jack Grealish. Look, Jack Grealish, interesting. Jack Grealish now, no. I think if Jack Grealish, possibly the beginning of this season, I get the idea, but I think that boat has sailed. What has Sheik Jassim says Nikki T. At the moment, Sheik Jassim hasn't said a word right now. This is the reports that have been put out there, but Sheik Jassim hasn't commented just yet. Caleb says United. Nikki T says I think Amrin's response was very telling for their plans for signing. Regarding money to loan players, what is our loan arrangement with with Tonto? Moss says, how do you think the rest of the season will go with Carrick? I think it's going to be up and down. I do. I think this style of play suits these players. I think Carrick will get a tune out of these players. I think this basic style, this basic counter attack style, I think suits them. I think Carrick will probably have a better rest of the season. As long as these players are prepared to play, I think Carrick will have a good half of the season. It's difficult to know, Moss. It's difficult to know because you don't know what players are going to turn up. But I do think Carrick is going to have a better half of the season. So look, guys, that's basically the news. So look, guys, thank you for being here. I love these shows. These evening shows are some of the best shows. It's interesting. At the moment, I think it's very interesting. I think that Glazers and INEOS are trying to be strategic. I think they're trying to get to the end of the window. And I think that they're putting out that they're going for a Neves, they're going for a Loftus-Cheek, they're going for, they want as much spin out there as they possibly can. Pete says, does Bruno want out now then? I thought he was all in. Look, Pete, I think it's an interesting one, Pete. I think Bruno is on the fence. I think Bruno Fernandez wanted to go last season. I think that United begged him to stay. I think he wanted to go. If I think we don't get into the Champions League, I think Bruno will go. The problem, Pete, is this. If we don't offer Bruno Fernandes a new deal, then next season, the end of next season, he can go on free. So we either sell Bruno Fernandes this season or he goes on a free for next season. I think Bruno Fernandes does want to go, or at least there's a big percentage of him that wants to go. So I think watch this space, but I think INEOS and the Glazers will try to throw him under the bus. Great way to spend an evening when I'm not in the pub, says Simon. Great stream, JB. Thanks again for giving up your time. Good night. I hope you feel better, Sky. Been an interesting one. Catch you next time. And now his best friend has been sacked. He wants out, quite possibly. Ndidi actually come. Apparently, Moss, that has been pushed out, ruled out, which thank God. Thank God. But have no misconceptions. Loftus-Cheek, I was told to watch out for that deal about a week ago. It's all come out this week, but apparently we're moving away from that deal. Well, because I think it's going to be more expensive than what we're willing to pay. Losing Bruno will be peak man. He's fantastic, says Pete. Jay says, will we sign United family Cole Palmer in the summer? You watch me be right. Jay, I think Cole Palmer was going to be a disaster. I think Cole Palmer is going to be a very expensive mistake. I like Cole Palmer a lot. If we are getting Cole Palmer, prime Cole Palmer, he's still young. If we're gonna get that player, then yes. But Cole Palmer's getting injuries now. He's still very, very young. That's not a good sign. I'm just getting Mason Mount vibes. And also, one thing to bear in mind, Jay, is if Chelsea are willing to sell Cole Palmer, I don't want him. If Chelsea are willing to let their star man go, I do not want to sign him. I'd have him at Arsenal in a heartbeat, says Pete. If we sell Bruno, I would sell him for 50 or 60, says Simon. Cheers, enjoy. Cheers, mate. Ruben Neves seems like the best option. I agree with you. I do agree with you. Moss, I like Steeler as well. Neves just said he'd be happy to come to United too. Look, I would take him. I think Neves would move the conversation on. I think Neves is one of those players that I think would add some value. Loftus-Cheek is agree. Palmer would go to City or Liverpool if Arsenal don't take him first. He's unhappy at Chelsea. Cole Palmer is a fantastic player, but where does he fit into this team? Which player for the last 4 seasons would you bring back? Amrabat, Sabitzer, fucking hell. If I was pushed, Moss, to bring back, let's talk about this for a second, right? If I was forced to bring back an Amrabat, Sabitzer, Igalo, Weghorst, I would bring Sabitzer back. Bruno to Saudi club, no difference to us selling Garnacho. Good point. James says United messed up on Haaland. James, mate, I think they had 3 opportunities to get Haaland. Once when he was at can't remember now. Once when he was at Ollie's club, can't remember now. My old man brain is gone. And then when he was at before he went to Dortmund as well. Mould. That's it, Liam. That is exactly it. Mould. We haven't United messed up on transfer wise? Laugh my ass off. RB Salzburg, yes, that's it. So when he went to Salzburg, James, there apparently was a release clause that was like 20 million. United didn't want to buy him. Sabitzer was only here for a short while. I would settle for Amrabat, but not Weghorst. Which 3 signings for the summer are crucial, says Moss. I think summer-wise, I think we need 2 midfielders. I think I think we need at least a midfielder. I think we need a right back. I think we need a striker. I think we need a striker. I think we need a striker. I think we need a centre midfielder and a right back. Vitinha is a good fit, yes. Pete says, yeah, I don't disagree with that. You could go for 2 CMs, a right back. Pete, we do need a left back. We need another left back. We need a right back. We need 2 centre midfielders, and I would argue another striker. I'd also probably say we're gonna need a centre back at some point as well. Scott loves Valverde. JB, you look nice today. Thanks, buddy. Legend. What about another keeper? We've got Vitek to come back. Nuno Mendes, Mendes. I would love Mendes to come back. How realistic to get 5 more signings in the summer? Mate, interesting one, Moss. Interesting one. You'd have to. So to get 5, I think you would need to go and get. You'd need to get rid of Ugarte, Bruno, Casemiro, Maguire, Malacia is going to go as well. Sancho's going to go. Rashford. If all of those players go, I think you can bring in 5. James says I'd bring back Ferguson for 1 more season. Liam says, mate, it's not FIFA. Why would Vitinha leave PSG? Good point. Just seems we're so behind. We are, Moss. We are so far behind. We're shopping in Poundland. Left back needed for a real left centre back, a striker, and a left winger 2. Our right back on the list, but Delo is a good number 2. I haven't even put CDM in here. I hope at least 1. So, guys, I'm going to go. Fantastic show. I love these shows. You guys are legends. Like, thank you for being in the chat. Look, what I love about this chat is, tonight, especially different opinions. I love the fact that we don't all agree. We've got different views, different opinions. Fantastic, guys. Absolute legendary chat tonight. Look, as like I always say on this channel, look, you guys on this show make this show amazing. I'm just sat here talking to you guys. You guys make it easy because your comments are so good. I love the fact that we don't all say the same thing. And guys, just absolutely fantastic. So look, thank you for being here, absolute legends. I will be back, and I will do a review of the match as well at some point. I will be back tomorrow evening. I may not be back during the day just because I've got a busy work day tomorrow. But look, have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm JB. This is the United Devil channel. And have a good rest of your evening. So take care, guys, and I'll see you very, very soon.